Welcome, everyone. You are tuning into Engaging Walk. My name is Drake.
My name is Ruby.
We believe in the power of walking together and talking together.
It's a simple act to stay connected, and movement is key.
Yeah, so this week we're going to be discussing Credo. So we went to a marriage retreat together that was fully paid for and sponsored by the Navy. I am currently serving on active duty. Ruby found it. She found the opportunity for us to do this, and it was 100% free. They gave us a hotel room, and it was a great experience. We have some video captured, and we're going to be showing that to you and throughout this special.
Yeah, and so before we go into like everything, would love to talk about what Credo and what do they do and who do we serve. So Credo is a group, an organization run by the government, and they serve military families. And what they do is just give back to the sailors or all the people that in armed force, um, just to be grateful for what they have done for the country. So, like Drake said, um, they create like a call like a weekend enrichment marriage enrichment weekend where you get to know more about your spouse and each other and how to maneuver through life together it and on top of that military life together and it's free it's pretty much paid for food hotel and all activities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really definitely fun. How did you find this? I think we've talked a lot about being intentional
Yeah.
in the previous week, and one of the things that Ruby is great at is being intentional with our dates, being intentional with our date nights and our time together. And one of the things that she's able to do really well is like make our money go a lot further. So
Yeah, a lot of training.
it's a great thing. It's a great
Uh-huh.
thing. It's I talk to a lot of people and they're like, man, I wish my wife was like that, or I wish I had somebody like that in my life who is always pushing, like, hey, let's make our money go further. Let's do this. Let's save some money here. And this was really fun, and it was a great way for us to unwind, spend some time at the beach,
Yeah.
spend some time together, and not be at home. Not be at home for like pretty much like 3 days. And so yeah, how did you find it?
So because I just married to a service member and I'm a learner, so I love to learn and prepare myself, especially new environment. So I signed myself up in Navy Spouse 101. That's the classes where you get to know the Navy, all the terms, what I said, like you know, credo, what does it stand for, and all the terms. And through that class, I get to know that there's tons of help and support of the community during the place called family and fleet and family.
Yeah, Fleet and
I'm
Family.
still learning all the terms. Um, and I found Credo there because they during the class they said like, hey, by the way, if you are looking for time to for your marriage and it's free and it's right here in Coronado at the lodge Navy Lodge, so just sign it up and then so that's what we did. So I think being intentional mean you look for resources around you and just utilize it
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this whole trip that we took together, it's like sort of like a staycation almost because it's local for us.
Yeah.
But it was sort of like taking a pause and thinking about our relationship, and I think that might be helpful for every relationship. I think no matter what you're doing, if you're focused on it and you're doing it every day, like a relationship, a marriage, especially a marriage where you live together,
Yeah.
you can sort of lose the forest for the trees, and I think taking a pause and thinking about how we do things, thinking about how we can improve things, it just in general, even if you're not having a crisis,
Yeah.
is very helpful. And that was pretty much like what they talked about.
Yeah. So
They had a
basically,
lot of strategies, a lot of
yes.
different things. To be honest, we had already gone over a lot of these things or a lot of these strategies we've previously mentioned Danny Silk's courses that are really
very
helpful. Love Academy,
Uh-huh.
Kylo, all that, and but this was also like just a refresher kind of course on that, and then doing it in person with other couples was really fun.
Yeah, and then they have 3 days, so basically you get to know, the couples, couples in, you know, military families, and I find it very helpful because for me as a civilian, going to that world, I don't know, because so many things, not just the terms, but also like the mindset and the lifestyle that I don't have. And I'm a planner, so one of the, I don't say it's culture, shocked, but it's like lifestyle shocked. Like I'm a planner and I have plants. If you come to our house, you will see plants everywhere on the
Yeah,
wall.
that's for sure.
And to-do list. And so for him, it's like I'm asking him, so what I'm gonna do? Like, but he said like, oh, I don't know. Like, what do you want? You don't know. And so it just their life is. You need to have a lot of grace and flexibility. That's what we need. That's what I need to learn. And so here, being there for 3 days, we not just learn more about each other. We learn more about communications, how you deal with that, and later on we will share more about our takeaway. And but then also I get to know the community around me where they serve in San Diego, they serve in California, and they have different skill sets that they have gone through. So that is
Absolutely, a lot of people that have spent almost
yeah,
years apart.
yeah,
Um,
and they
Being
feel
on deployment,
yeah.
being this, doing that, having to live separately.
Mm-hmm.
What they call in the military mill to mill. Like both
Mm-hmm.
are both couples.
They're serving
They're
on
both
them.
serving, so
Yes,
their schedules can be
it's tough.
really crazy.
Yeah,
Really crazy.
yeah. So like they have two different mission at two different place, and they still have a family to run.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. But anyway, so we just go. I want to go. If you hear background noise, that's just our baby for a baby in the back.
Yeah, that's Boba.
She just like.
She's like, I want to do what you guys are doing right now, but it's just sleep time. We're doing this late at night, but we're not really late, but we're doing this later than we should be, and she's.
She's like, let me join you guys.
Let me out.
She's cute. We'll introduce her the next
Had a little bit of an intervention with her dog. Just had to make sure that she was doing well. Normally she's in the crate by now, like sleeping, but since we're up doing this, she's like, hey, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
But so we just want to also talk a little bit about some of the highlights or the takeaways that we had from this event.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I wouldn't say learned, but one of the things that was definitely highlighted to us, and one of the things that was like a focus, is this idea about like attacking the problem and not the person.
Yeah, it's very true because most of the time, like when it's got heated conversation, we kind of like go after the person, but actually as a team, because that's what I learned from Credo. Not that's what I learned from the Kylo. Like, it's the connection point. Like the reason we bring it up, the reason that we talk about this, even though it's not nice or it's hard, but is my goal is to connect with you. My goal is to solve this problem together. Instead of I accusing you.
Yeah, it can be sometimes seen as like you're doing this or you're making me feel this way.
Yeah.
And in the end, you're responsible for how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be a situation that is problematic or can be like impeding connection to the highest point. Like, hey, I come home from work, and the moment I come home from work, I immediately step on, trash, and like this is around the place, just as an example. And the problem isn't really necessarily you. The problem is that maybe your expectations aren't met of like how you would like things to be when you get home, and then you can talk about that and sort that out, as opposed to blaming the other person or saying that they're making you feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's part of it is your expectation,
Mm-hmm.
and then part of it is like what's happening in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so if when those two things don't match, then there's room for conflict.
Yeah. And I think, there's this exercise that I did with my mentor when I was young. I was still single, and she asked me to write down, and you don't even think about it. Like just write down your dream, kind of husband, and just write down. And I wrote down all my expectation, and it was really long. It's super long, and but like, and she told me to bring it back to her the next week because we do it week by week, and even before I met her for the next week, and after I writing down the list, I feel like it's impossible to have someone like that, and it's for me, even like I found someone like that on the list, for me at that point it's boring because I know everything on the list. There's no art of getting to know the person.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's like for me it's that at that point it looked like a robot to me, like it just no art of getting to know one another. um, so like at that point, like sometimes expectation is not wrong, but it needs to be communicated, and to evaluate, is it necessary, again going back to connections, like if I expecting him do all kinds of things that I want, is it fair for him because he coming home tired from work, and I cannot just like bombard him with what I want, but I have to consider like what he needs, what he wants to do. So I think, like you said, like it's not tackle the person, but the problem, and and literally just like, is it worth it for your marriage, your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that also kind of like feeds into another thing that they talked about, which was the idea of there being permanent and
Mm-hmm.
temporary problems. You know, an idea or an example could be like a temporary problem could be, that we have a schedule
Mm-hmm.
conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby's working nights and I'm working days, and we hardly see each other.
Which
You
is
know,
not the case.
yeah, not the case, but just as an example of a temporary problem.
Yeah.
Our schedules aren't always going to look like that,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to work around those temporary problems, and we have to make solutions for them.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was the case, if we had conflicting work schedules, then we'd have to find time in order to connect and in order to do life together. It can't be the case that I'm sleeping, she's working, and then during the weekends we're just catching up.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just an example, but an example of a temporary problem. And a permanent problem could be something along the lines of like we have different um, viewpoints, different values, and those things are always going to, or they're always going to be different viewpoints that we maintain, and it's not necessarily fair for us to expect our partner to change. And we sort of have to live with that difference and accept,
Mm-hmm.
or at least come to some sort of compromise. Um, a good example they used at Credo
Credo.
was drinking. That there was a case where a guy was like, hey, you know what, I like to drink with my friends, and his wife was like, I don't want you to drink at all, you're going cold turkey. And he's like, no, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So they came to a compromise where he would drink with his friends once a month, or whatever that they agreed upon.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to sort of think about like what those differences are in your relationship, and um, how can you mitigate the conflict that you're going to share with
Mm-hmm.
amongst those differences.
And some of the things that we also see that I learned is that there's a lot of expectations and communications we should have done before the marriage. And then like there's some what I say is like a core hardcore where like if you look at computer, hardcore is something that you cannot change. It's there, but then it's like a software when you can insert and delete it. So those are things that where you can have compromise. And as a hardcore for me, when we're getting to know each other, my hardcores were like, are you a Christian or do you really love Jesus? And this because this matter most for me.
Or software, like the hardware.
Yeah, that's the hardware.
Yeah, the hardware of like what like makes that person like their.
Yeah, and then those are the things that you cannot compromise, and that will bring so much value to your marriage and smooth start when when that discussion already happened before the marriage. But life happens, and if it's not happening, it's gonna be challenging her, but like it's still able to to work on
Mm-hmm.
getting those things down if they haven't started yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely deal breakers. Deal breakers certainly exist, and
Yeah.
part of your job when you're in the dating process is finding those deal breakers
Yeah.
and being honest about them.
For sure.
Because not everybody is for everybody.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
and you have to. You might really be infatuated with the person, but it might not work out in the end, and that's part of what the dating process is. And it seemed like there's probably some couples there that didn't go through the dating process, and thinking about that, but they're already married, and that was some of the things that they talked about during Credo. But at the same time, you just have to kind of, depending on like how you want to approach it, think about like, hey, is this person worth it? This problem that they're having, or this conflict that we're probably always going to share, is that a compromise that I'm willing to make? But I would say that you have to check with yourself, you have to check with your partner, and think about that very carefully.
Yeah. And one thing that I also learned from our marriage, that no matter how much I prepare myself, there's always a learning curve, and that's okay, and that is exciting because now I get to learn something that is tailored to our marriage, and so do you. So you have something that only you and your partner will find out the solution, and that's a great thing because you get to find the answer. You get to be powerful in that relationship, and you take ownership over from that. And so for me and for us, we for marriage, we never like say like, oh yeah, it's too hard, get out, get out, out of that marriage. No, we want you to stay in and fight hard for it, because it's beautiful to have two individual become one in one thought, in one mind, in one lifestyle, and yet still carry something very unique about them, but still like become very good friends. And it's definitely take a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it. There's a couple of other things we wanted to go over, but one of the next ones was this app that they had. It was we can post a link to it on the website.
Yeah.
Or
It's called a Love Maps.
Yeah.
So it's basically all the questions that you get to ask your partner. Fun thing, or also, sexy thing.
Yeah.
Hot. They call it like salsa, like mid.
Picante.
Oh,
It was like, I don't know. It was like it got progressively,
yeah.
more sexual and more like things that you'd only do if you were married, kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
it's kind of funny.
yeah, but there's also a lot more like mild things, like hug your spouse and tell them two things that they do that you really love.
Yeah.
Just a lot of it was just kind of like breaking the norm kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because couples fall in their routine. People have their routines.
Yes.
Couples, once they've been together for a while, you start to develop a routine, and then things will come into your life and just totally disrupt it, like a dog.
Yeah. Or a baby.
Or a baby.
Yeah.
And then that becomes normal.
Uh-huh.
And then you have to, I think, like we talked about earlier, is like you have to find these times to think about the relationship. And then some of the things that might help with that is doing things that you wouldn't normally do. And asking these questions, doing spicy things, doing mildly spicy things,
Yeah.
doing very mild things, but that are different things that
Yeah.
you don't normally do, will help you grow as a couple.
Yeah. One of the questions I think is really interesting to me, like, who is your husband? Childhood. Oh no. So who is your husband? Childhood best friend.
To do that, you'll need to turn off airplane mode.
Yeah, we're gonna need to turn off airplane mode.
So, yeah, but I know the answer. So it was fun. It was fun to know, like, ooh, I didn't know that part. Ooh, and like going back to the again previous week by being intentional. So I think is that app will help you to be more intentional when
Absolutely.
you don't know what questions you should ask your spouse.
Yeah. And then the last thing that we noticed was that maybe some couples didn't know the concept or the idea of love languages and what their partner's love language is. And that's really important to know how your partner wants to receive love, how they receive love, because you might be like chopping away at it, like I'm bringing gifts, I am doing acts of service, and your partner is like, you know what, yeah, you did all those things, but
That's not my love language.
you never come home and hug me. You
Yeah.
never come home and give me a kiss.
That's right.
So you have to know, and I think it can go a long way in terms of breaking down barriers. Knowing your partner's love language, and then can open communication where communication breaks down, and maintain connection where connection seems difficult. So you can say, like, for example, if your partner, like Ruby, her love language is physical touch and quality time.
Yeah.
So, if we take a moment to have quality time together, and then really enjoy that company. Like the other night, we went also to the beach and did a bonfire, and that was like boom, big boost to our quality of time. It was really really fun, and we brought the dog, and it was a great time.
Yeah.
But another thing is, like, if we're having a conflict, that we can like a simple, like, hey, my goal is to be connected. My goal is not to dwell on this for too long, but for us to get through it, and we're gonna get through it. And then I'm just here holding your hand and making sure that you understand that, like, that our goal is connection. That my goal is connection, and a touch, and a simple touch like that in that moment can go a long way.
Yeah. And what I learned from other couples about love language is that your love language can change throughout the years, and it's good to catch up with your partners and ask them, like, the way how they want to receive love and how they usually give away love, because apparently there's two ways. It could be two ways, but it could be one way. I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is that it could be two different languages that the way they receive and the way they give. And like me, if I love to receive, like you said, quality time and physical touch. But when I give, I see that I give quality time and gifts. I put a lot of thoughts in my gifts, and that could be, it could change throughout the years. And so it's good to ask your partner, like, hey, how do you feel loved lately? Or
what have I done lately that made you feel loved?
Yeah. Or how do you want to receive loved? And and so yeah, it's a very good question to ask your partner, and check back with them. And sometimes you can see that it changed, sometimes it stayed the same, which is great.
Yeah, I think another thing that, like, really was a great part about doing Credo was that, like, we got to do this, like, little art project, and we made our love map.
Yeah.
And it was basically like our love story of, like, how we met, all the things that we've done together, and we sort of, like, drew it out in a timeline, and we hung it up in our room. It's in our bedroom.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like in this area where we have, like, all of our plans, like like my wife said, like we do a lot of planning, and
Yes.
and when that scene that next to that plan, I think this morning we were doing some praying and like looking at it, and I was like, you know what, it's so fitting that these things are together because
Mm,
you know we see where we're going, and we see also where we've been,
mm-hmm.
and seeing those two things side by side is really powerful. That like we've come such a long way,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have so much more things to do, and there's so many more
Yeah.
things to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having that in your house, maybe that's something you can do once a year. Just
Mm-hmm.
keep adding to your timeline and keep, or maybe you have a new milestone and you add it.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful to look at, that and the art that you do together. Also,
Mm-hmm.
like something creating something together.
Maybe we can do another episode about it. The love maps, and you can get to do with your loved one. Maybe not on the walk, but like it's
Yeah.
the art
You
project.
come home from your walk, you come home and you get a big poster board or a small one,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, it's stop and it's start a new one.
oh yeah, that does it.
But you have to click on it because it's not recording right now. There you go. So yeah, maybe we can start another episode about love maps, and we can just show you our love maps, and it's good. Like Drake said, it's good to see where have you been through, and sometimes heated conversation or doesn't have to be, but it's a good reminder your love story, and it just for me since I put it up there every time I look at that I just like how faithful God is, and has had brought us to this moment, and yeah, it's very cool to do that, and it's again you get to do it with your partner and you get to talk about it, and I think
I think
it
at a
was
certain
good.
point you're like, wow, like we did that too, like we did that, like it's like it's so many things.
Yeah, especially if you imagine like we just got married, but then if you married for like 10 years, that's gonna be a whole story.
Yeah.
But it's worth to do it, for sure. So our assignment for you this week
Mhm.
is just to go on a vacation or staycation
Could be a staycation.
and use the app, the Love Map app, and to ask questions and with your partner and enjoy it, and just enjoy the time together, and share with us where you're going and or where you plan to go on, and what questions that from the app that you like most.
Mhm. Yeah, I think if you're on that walk, that you can, or if you're taking a walk together during your vacation, that you can use those questions and pick maybe 10 and really go deep into them. Maybe once your partner answers, sometimes, maybe Ruby hates me for saying this sometimes. I'm always like, what do you mean? Like, you know, sometimes she'll say something, boom. She's very fast and she's very like like quick with her responses. But
Uh-huh.
sometimes I'm like, wait, what does she mean by that? So I'll be like, wait, what did you mean, babe? And she'd be like, I meant this. And I'm like, oh, I totally did not hear that
Oh yeah.
at first. I totally thought something else. But if you really dive in and you really ask those follow up questions, you can get to you get to really understand your spouse at a different level.
And then that's what I actually that's what another things that I learned from Credo, that I feel like every time I said something or he said something that kind of like edgy, and you feel like it's good to ask that person, hey, this is what I heard, is that what you meant?
Yeah, so
Then
definitely a good tactic.
and then because sometimes speaking and hearing at a different level, and then it can cause um, misunderstanding, and so by confirming what you heard, it's clear out the atmosphere a lot. So do that with your partner when they share something
Mm-hmm.
that like kind of like what sensitive, but also again it's a moment. Remember to create a safe spot, a safe place where they get to come out and share who they are, and instead of like receiving it as who they are and attack instead of that attacking them, which is we don't want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely want to have that openness and not be shot down out in the open field.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
shut them down.
Yeah, so definitely, we're gonna also post or maybe not post a link, but maybe just show like a screenshot of what the app is on our website for this episode.
Yeah.
So that'd be engagingwalk.com. Make sure you follow it. Make sure you subscribe.
Yeah.
Whatever button it is that says like, "Hey, I like this. I want more of this." Push it and send it out to all of your people and be
Yeah.
like, "This is what I need in my life: is some engaging walk." But we're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We have the
Facebook?
podcast, Facebook. So just follow us. That's engagingwalk.com. You can find all the links there. You can find all the episodes. And we really want to thank you for tuning in. And so next week we're going to dive a little bit more into love languages, what all of them are, how you can do them, and what that means, like what our love languages are, and then how we communicate using our love languages.
And how can love languages help you to stay connected when you don't want to?
And we went into that a little bit. We're going to go a little bit more in depth on the next episode. So we want to thank you for tuning in. We hope that you take our engaging walk and you make it your own.
Sure. Yeah, that for sure. And don't forget to subscribe us and follow us. And thank you for your time.
This is Ruby and Drake with Engaging Walk, and we're signing out.
See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye-bye.